Hi everybody, it's Terry Ryder from Hotspotting. How to explain the various differences in the major markets around Australia? How do we explain why Sydney and Melbourne, for example, have had several years of booming markets, whereas in Perth and Darwin, we've had the opposite, prices and rentals going backwards, while places like Adelaide and Brisbane have been, while growing a little, not growing very much. Some markets booming, some markets going backwards, and some stagnating. How do we explain those differences? Well, one way of explaining them is to look at the underlying state economies. And there's a very, very strong correlation between what's happening in the capital city property markets or what's happening in the underlying state economy. New South Wales has been the #1 economy in Australia for the whole period in which New South Wales capital Sydney has had its property boom. The #2 economy in the nation, in pretty much every quarterly edition of the CommSec State of the States reports for the last, say, 4 years, has been Victoria. And we've seen Melbourne as the next market that's had a property boom. Meanwhile, the two worst economies in the nation have been Western Australia, where the capital city Perth has been going backwards with its property market, and the Northern Territory, where Darwin has also had falling prices and rentals. So there is this very strong correlation between the underlying state economy and the performance of the capital city property market. It's an undeniable link. So I think it's significant that some of the other economies in Australia are actually showing considerable signs of improvement, and therefore we expect better performance from the capital city property markets. Western Australia is one where there's major recovery in the economy there, and the Perth property market is undoubtedly past the worst of its downturn, is now moving into recovery phase. We're expecting better things from Adelaide for various reasons, including considerable improvements in the South Australian economy. Hobart's boom. Hobart right now is the boom market of the capital cities. Property is selling faster there than anywhere else, and prices are rising faster there than anywhere else. And it's no coincidence that we've seen significant improvements in recent years in the underlying Tasmanian economy. The one that stands out for me, and the one I want to talk about today, is the Brisbane market, because the underlying Queensland economy is showing over and over again, almost weekly reports confirming that there's a big improvement in that economy. Brisbane has been an underachiever. While Sydney and Melbourne have been having their booms, Brisbane overall has done very little in the way of price growth. Individual pockets have done very well, but Brisbane generally has only shown very small numbers in terms of overall price growth. And it's not a coincidence that the underlying Queensland economy has been very mediocre. It's ranked in the CommSec State of State reports in recent years, probably sort of 5th or 6th. Customarily or traditionally, Brisbane is ranked a lot higher. But all the signs are that the Queensland economy is now coming back strongly. And this week, there's been 3 reports that stood out for me. One that's suggesting that Queensland economy is now in its strongest position in several years. It points to growing numbers through interstate migration, a big recovery in those numbers. Huge difference in the number of jobs being created by the Queensland economy. In 2016, the Queensland economy only created 17,000 new jobs, but last year it created 100,000 new jobs, more jobs than any other state or territory in the nation, in fact. It also points to a big uplift in infrastructure spending, and this is very significant. This is the other thing that stands out about Sydney, and reasons for its property boom, that infrastructure spending has been so high in Sydney. And now we're seeing a big uplift in infrastructure spending underway on planning for Queensland, a record high of $35 billion, according to this report. So we've got a lot of things coming into alignment, leading to a much stronger Queensland economy, according to that report. Another report out this week notes that in recent months we've seen new deals in the resources sector, which is very important to the health of the Queensland economy. New deals in the last few months totaling $5 billion in terms of new mining or gas ventures that are getting underway or proposed, or in various various news that has advanced a number of projects. So there's undoubtedly a revival in the resources sector, creating many thousands of new jobs in Queensland. And then we had some data from Australian Bureau of Statistics on building approvals, and it shows that in Queensland, approval for new housing, the latest figures, it's the highest growth rate in the nation. And also it's in terms of the number of new houses approved for construction in April, it's the highest result achieved for any month in the last 10 years in Queensland. So 3 different reports, all pointing to an uplift in the Queensland economy in various ways. And as I said, very, very important in terms of what happens in real estate markets. If these trends in the underlying state economy improve and continue, we're going to be seeing uplift in the Brisbane property market at last, because it's done very little overall in the last 4 or 5 years, but that may be about to change. And one of the factors that will help it change is the affordability comparison and the rental yield comparison when comparing Brisbane on the one hand with Sydney and Melbourne on the other. So that's it for now. But before I sign off, just a reminder that my monthly Q&A, my live Q&A, which I hold early every month, the live Q&A for June is going to be held on Monday evening, this coming Monday of next week. It starts in terms of the eastern states time 7:30, Western Australia that's 5:30, and in the middle states like South Australia that'll be 7 p.m. So live Q&A, which your opportunities to throw your questions at me. I'll do my best to answer anything that you have, any questions that you have about issues in the real estate industry. Or what I do find is most people want to ask about locations, and that's fine too. I'm always happy to answer any questions about what I think about particular locations where you might own real estate or be thinking of buying. So don't miss that opportunity to get your questions answered Monday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern States time, and yeah, the various other times in the other states. That's it for now. Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au signing off. I'll talk to you again soon.